Well, good afternoon, my little art friends. Today, we're going to take an adventure into outer space and learn how to make one of these space paintings with just a few clicks of our button. So, let's get started right away. I'm going to start with just a new document. Doesn't really matter what size. This is about 700 by 500, something like that. It's perfect size for me. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and look at my colors. Black and white is fine, but for my background I'm probably going to have a little more fun with it than just black and white. So I'm probably going to put like maybe a purple to a black, or a purple to a dark purple. Maybe I'll just go purple to black. Purple to black. And I'm going to actually go up to Filter, and I'm going to go to Render. I'm going to do Render Clouds. And when I do, you see it kind of already has this kind of really neat kind of space look to it already. I'm going to take another layer, so I'm going to do a new layer here. And on this I'm going to put a gradient. And I'm going to take my gradient, I don't even know, I'm going to play around with it, probably a linear gradient. There's a couple to choose from here. Maybe I'll do this red-yellow one and see how it looks. And I'm just going to drag my gradient across the screen there. And of course it's going to fill in the whole screen, which isn't really the look I'm looking for, but if I change the mode from normal to, let's say, overlay, that's kind of a fun little space look to it. And you can play around with it while you have it open and just get the gradient the way you like it. So that's fine for me for right now. So I've got my my space gradient going right here, and what I could really use is like a planet. So I'm going to do another layer, another new layer, and I'm going to just grab myself the Marquee tool, the elliptical Marquee tool. Hold down the Shift key so I get a nice round circle. Maybe I'll tap that up just a little bit, maybe about there. And I'm going to go back and get my gradient again, and maybe I'll use the same gradient. I don't know, I'm going to play around with it, but instead of using linear, I'm going to use radial. And I'm going to click in there and let's see how that looks. Oh, I don't like that because it's kind of backwards. Let's try this yellow at the top to purpley one. Let's try it, see how we like it. Oh, that kind of looks like a planet. Looks like a planet just floating out in outer space right there. It's a little flat, even with the gradient on it, and I'm kind of playing around just to get it kind of precise how I like it. Control D to get rid of my selection. It's a little flat and it looks a little removed from the page, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer style. I'm going to do an inner shadow on it, and here it comes. And you can see it's got a shadow down there at the bottom because I have the angle down pretty far down, which I like, but I could use a little more distance and maybe a little bit the size a little bigger too, and kind of give it a little bit more of a shadow to it than what it had. Maybe even bring the opacity down just a little bit. This gives a little bit more cool factor. Now it's starting to look like space. What it could use is some stars. So I'm going to actually go back to my first gradient layer, and I'm going to go back up to Filter again, and I'm going to go look at some noise. And you can play around with some of these dust and scratches to speckle. I'm just going to add some noise to it and see how it looks. And you can actually add as much noise or as little noise as you want. That's a lot of noise. I'll just come down and add a little bit of noise. It kind of gives it a little bit like there's stars in the background. And you don't have to do it on that layer. You could do a new layer if you want. I might just put a new layer in there. Let's go back to my black and white. And just drop the white on top. I'll just fill it in with a paint bucket. There's my white, and I'm going to overlay that too. And then I could, you can see the speckles in there a little bit more. In fact, I might even raise that up and put it above my planet. Or maybe I'll drop my planet down below it. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Or maybe I don't like it altogether, I'll just turn it off. So there's all these different things you can do. I wish I could get this layer to go up above it. There we go. That's kind of cool too. You could go in and on a new layer one more time, and a more new layer. I'm going to just grab my paintbrush, and I've got some white going there. I've got a really small brush, and I can tap in some stars. I'm going to go a little smaller than that. And they don't even have to be white. They could be you could try a couple of different colors, maybe some yellow stars, because you know when stars are all different colors, because they're all cool burning gas in the sky. And maybe a couple of red stars because they're like Venus right there. And what I might do with my stars is just for fun is do another layer style on there. Let's say an outer glow on my stars, and I don't know how much you could play around with how much spread and the size you want. Can look a little twinkly stars, or even bring the opacity down. Up to you. Get it how you like it. That's kind of cool. So there's some little stars going. Once you got the whole scene pretty much the way you like it, there's some fun things you can do with one more filter I want to show you. I'm actually going to flatten this image altogether. I'm just going to get rid of that layer I didn't like. You could go to render, and you can go to lens flare, and there's different ways you can, different types of lens flares you can get, but they kind of look like outer space to me, like there's a nebula blowing up or something when you throw one of those in there. So I think that's a nice little finishing touch to add one of those. So anyway, play around with it. I mean, there's a million things you can do. Play with the modes, play with the noise, play with your shadows, play with your stars, play with your Photoshop. Play with your Photoshop and have fun in space. See you next time.